On this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a great star. You've seen him in 13 Hours, The Purge, Nurse Jackie, and he has been voted one of television's hottest actors of comedy by Entertainment Weekly. It's Dominic Fumusa. Welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, good to talk with you, Brian. Good to be here.
And how does it feel being voted television's hottest actor of comedy?
Well, that was a while ago. I think that might have been like back in 08 or 09, something like that, when the show first debuted. It was funny. I mean, I'd never thought of myself as being particularly hot or being much of a comedian. So it was a nice nice surprise on both fronts.
And did you get anything for it? Did you get like a statue, or was it just in a magazine?
It was just in the magazine. I think we picked up a couple of copies of the magazine at the newsstand, and that was about it. Yeah.
That is awesome. So you know what? Before I interview the stars, I do a bit of research on them, and the first thing that I was shocked at: you're one of 10 children. Is that the Italian side of your family?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I have 2 kids of my own, and I often say to my parents, what were you thinking? It's like, and then they quickly point out that since I came at the end of that line, if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
To which I say, well, I wouldn't know that I wouldn't be here. So what's the difference? My parents both were raised Catholic, and my mom's not Italian, actually. My father is the son of Italian immigrants from Sicily. But my mother is born and raised in northern Wisconsin on a farm. Her ancestry goes back English, Scottish, German. Anyway, they said they both came from small families. My mom only had 2 brothers. My dad had 1 sister. And they claim that when they got together, they thought they always wanted a really big family. And sure enough, that's what they got.
And was it quite competitive being in such a large group of siblings?
It's funny. First of all, the breakdown is 7 girls and 3 boys. So, wow. And both of my brothers, I have one brother who's 11 years older than I am, and I have another brother who's 4 years older than I am. So it wasn't competitive in the sense that we were doing the same things at the same time. But as I got older and there's a joke in my family. When I was younger, my brothers called me Little because I was the little brother. And as I grew up, I became, I'm about 6'2", and my 2 brothers are, I think, 5'10" and 5'9". So they became the little ones. So I flipped it, and then I started calling them Little, and now we call each other Little all the time. But we were into different things, and so there wasn't a lot of head-to-head competition in that way. Yeah. And with my sisters, the same thing, I would say.
And when growing up with all those siblings all around you, who was your biggest influence, that was your driving force?
I would say it was my brother Joe, in many ways. He's the one who's 11 years older than I am. And so he went off to college when I was, only 6 years old. And he was, he was sort of my hero. I mean, I really looked up to him, and we did a lot of things together. And whenever he came home, I always wanted to be around him every second because, he was away at college, so I didn't get to see him as much anymore. Mm. And I actually, he used to leave on Sunday mornings to go, but when he'd come home, we grew up just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. And my brother went to school down in Bloomington, Indiana. So that's about, if you drive it, it's about 5-6 hours. And so he didn't come home all that often, but when he did, he would leave change. He would leave like quarters on the bedstand for me when I woke up. He'd leave early, and I'd wake up and I'd find this change. And I was, a little kid. I thought, oh my God, I'm rich. And I remember that so clearly. And I tell my wife that story, and she thinks that's so sad. But I mean, that's the kind of thing, when you're little, you just, I listen to the music my older siblings listened to. So all my favorite rock is from the 70s. And my movies, all my favorite movies are from the 70s. I can't get enough of Dog Day Afternoon and The Godfather and, all of those great movies of the 70s, De Niro and Raging Bull. I think I'd rather watch an old movie like that than maybe catch something that's new, which I get a flack for in my house, but
Yeah,
I'm a bit
especially in
stuck.
your
I'm a bit
trade.
stuck. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you was growing up, you know, what was the first movie that you saw? I mean, did you actually, let's rewind. Did you always want to be an actor, or did you want to be something else? Because I was watching a video on YouTube where you went to Notre Dame, you know, for
Oh,
Rudy, and
yeah.
you mentioned that you played football when you was younger. I mean, did you want to always act, or was you into your sports?
I was no, I would say I was far more into my sports. I played football, basketball, baseball. I did everything I could. I actually loved wrestling. Wrestling was probably my best sport.
Yeah.
But when I was a freshman in high school, I had started wrestling, I think in sixth grade, and I had to decide because wrestling and basketball are both winter sports in America. So uh, I had to decide, was I going to wrestle, and we by far a better wrestler, but the clue to my desire to be an actor, I think, came in the fact that I looked at the situation. Wrestlers wrestled on Tuesdays and Thursday nights to an empty gym. And on Friday nights, the basketball team played with the band and a full house. And it seemed so thrilling to me to be in front of all those people that I actually chose basketball, which I was good enough at. I mean, I did play and I ended up starting on the basketball team, but I would have gone much further with my wrestling. But a big part of why I chose it, and I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I think had more people come to those wrestling matches, I probably would have stuck with wrestling because I was much better at it. But I think that's when that sort of started to feed my need, I think, to be in the front of the situation. And I did start doing plays in high school, but it was just another activity. I mean, I was in the band. I was part of the school newspaper. I just, I showed up to play rehearsal and I did the plays, and I got some good parts, but I didn't really completely fall in love with acting until I got to college. I was at a small liberal arts college called Lawrence University, which is in Appleton, Wisconsin. There's only about 1,500 students there. And because it's such a small school, you could do everything. I was a political science major. We called it government, and I was on the track to become a lawyer. Most of my friends took the LSAT and became lawyers. They went to law school after college. But when it came time for me to be a senior in college, I had to get ready for the LSAT. I had like a panic attack, and I realized if I don't change my plan here, I may never act again. And I had been doing the school plays. I had been getting leads in the school plays at this small college, and I loved it. And I realized it was the only thing that really satisfied me. It made me feel whole. And so I switched plans. I went to graduate school for acting. I got an MFA at the University of Illinois, and that sort of put me on my way.
Can you remember the first thing that you starred in, like on stage? Can you remember the first play that you did?
Well, the very first play was
Yeah.
when I was 14 years old. We had a very creative drama teacher at my high school, and he would take classics and turn them into other forms. So one of the first plays, the very first one might have been 42nd Street, which he turned the 42nd Street musical into. He was into kabuki.
Right.
So he was teaching us about kabuki at this little school in the middle of Wisconsin. It made no sense. But that's the kind of guy he was. He was constantly, his name was Eugene Olson, and he was a legend at my school. He constantly was challenging us to think outside the box and, far outside of our little town. And so we learned about kabuki, and he combined kabuki dance with the 42nd Street musical. And that was one of the first. That was one of the first. I had a small part, but and I can't sing. So I was not ever a lead.
You know what? I'm sure you can sing. You know when they say that people can't sing, I just think it's a cop out. Everyone's got a voice.
Okay, fair enough. But you might not want to hear me sing.
So yeah, well, the music that we hear now, that monkey song, I just think's hilarious. Really good though. My girls absolutely love singing it all the time, which is quite annoying. So you've got into acting. What inspired you to actually tread this stage? Because obviously you've done your sports, you've gone to university, what we would call over here. So what inspired you actually to forget everything about sports and just concentrate on the arts?
Well, the sports thing took care of itself. I got to college and I did play football in college as well, but I
Yeah,
quit even and it was a Division III. In the States, the university athletic system is divided into three categories. There's Division I, which is Notre Dame and USC and North Carolina basketball and all that. Then there's Division II, which is still a scholarship athlete, but significantly lower in terms of the overall talent pool. And then there's Division III, which is really an extension of high school athletics. I mean, I'm not saying anybody could do it, but pretty much anybody could do it. I mean,
right.
there are some very good Division III schools, and I don't want to disparage that in terms of their sports. But Lawrence, for example, if you showed up for football practice, you were on the team. I mean, I
Yes,
don't remember anybody being
I
cut.
like the idea of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it didn't mean you were going to play, but you certainly could suit up. So I did play a little bit, and I got to start a little bit. I played quarterback a little bit, but very quickly I realized by my sophomore year of college, I just wasn't as good as I thought I was, and there was absolutely no question after college it would be done. I mean, I wasn't even remotely in the arena of a professional athlete. So, which is not to say I don't throw a good football. I can, when if we were to play catch, you go, oh wow, you got a good arm. And to this day, I pride myself on the beach when I'm throwing catches.
Look at
A buddy of mine in college said, no matter what happens, you will always be able to throw a football better than the average person. I said, okay, I'll take it. So I guess really the question was, as I said, was I going to stick on this trajectory of law school? I still love it. I mean, I studied political science, I studied constitutional law, I studied American history, all kinds of things that sort of fed into that world. And to this day, when I'm reading for pleasure, I'm more likely to read that
yeah,
than I am anything else. That being said, like I came to that point when all my buddies were getting ready to take the LSAT and apply to law school, and I was like, man, it really hit me. I don't know. It just it was scary almost, and it's funny because I consider the path of an actor to be about as scary of a path as one could possibly choose, but the idea of not choosing that seemed even more frightening. So
yeah.
that's where I ended up.
And then you go on stage, you make your Broadway debut with Quentin Tarantino, Stephen Lang.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. I mean, what is he like to work with? Because he's one of these people that just seems like a genius, but quite odd.
He is a bit of both, I would say. He was great. He was great. Very, very welcoming, and he would take us to. He had an apartment in the city at the time while we were doing the play, and he would invite us over, and we'd watch these obscure sort of movies that no one else had heard of, and he'd pause it and he'd talk about why this shot was interesting and how it fits into the historical context of other films and filmmakers. Look, Quentin is he's a one of a kind. I mean, he had never acted professionally in his life. He confessed the last time we did the play in 1998 on Broadway. I think at that time maybe he was in his mid-30s, and he had not acted since he was 17 years old in a community theater production.
Wow.
But he had already directed Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown was about to come out. He was the hottest director on the planet. And the second he put his name to that production, the producers told me they were able to raise the money overnight.
Yeah.
So, his fame is what made that play happen. He had a very challenging role. And I always tell people that just to get a sense of what that role is like, on stage, it was originally played by Robert Duvall. And in the film, I think it's played by Alan Arkin. So two of the greatest actors of our times played that part. So he was really, challenging himself, to say the least. He did a fine job. I mean, I don't think anyone would accuse Quentin of being, one of the world's greatest actors, but he did okay, and it was fun, and it was nothing but a joyful experience. I look back on it very, very fondly. I'm glad you mentioned Stephen Lang, who is obviously not nearly as famous, but a hell of an actor, and was so generous with me. I was in my mid-20s, and I'd knock on his dressing room door, and I'd say, "Hey, man, after the show, you want to get a beer or hang for a bit?" And he was almost always welcoming, and he would tell me stories of, because I had come up through the theater, and he had worked at the Guthrie in Minneapolis and at other great theaters. He had been a part of the Death of a Salesman that Dustin Hoffman and Malkovich had done in the 80s. I mean, he's an actor's actor. And that's the kind of people I gravitated toward. It's the kind of people I still gravitate toward. And I just, I couldn't get enough of asking him questions. And he was so forthcoming and generous with his time and his knowledge. It was one of those seminal moments in early in my career.
Do you get nervous at all? I mean, obviously your Broadway debut, Quentin Tarantino, Stephen Lang, obviously this production has been, spotlit because of Quentin Tarantino. Did you suffer from any nerves at all?
Oh yeah. And I'll just say, in my opinion, if you ever talk to an actor who says they never got nervous, they're either lying or they don't really know what they're doing. I mean, and that's that. I feel that strongly. I had terrible. By then I was a little better, but when I first started, I did a season at the Stratford Festival right out of graduate school, and I'll never forget. I was playing Charles the Wrestler in As You Like It, and after the opening night, we did this party with a bunch of the benefactors of the theater, and this one man. God bless him. Most people would never do this, but he came up to me and he said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Great job tonight, but I got to be honest with you. When you first came out on stage, you looked a little off. You looked like you were thrown, like you were nervous out there." And of course I was.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, I think in the theater you can't hide it.
No.
I'll tell you another quick story after this about being nervous, where it didn't come across that I was nervous, but I thought for sure it would. But anyway, from that point on, I was actually very grateful to him, because I mean, my first reaction was, "Fuck you! I can't believe you just said that to me." But then I went home and I thought about it. I said, "You know what? He was right. I was nervous, and I've got to work on that." And so over the course of many years, I really trained myself how to relax, because that's all acting is. It's really just breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, we learn our lines, we learn our choreography, we study the script, we know why we're doing something, and we know how we're doing it, and all of that. But at the end of the day, you want to forget everything and just simply show up and breathe. It's that hard, and it's that easy.
I mean, how do you learn your lines? Because I did performing arts at college and university, and for me, I always used to forget the first line. Before going on stage, the first line. And I had to have the first line written on my hand or somewhere on stage. It's because as soon as I knew what the first line was, that was it. Plain sailing from there on.
Sure.
What is your technique in learning lines? And have you ever forgotten any on stage before?
Yes, definitely. I've forgotten lines on stage. My technique is very straightforward. I drill it. That's all I do. I just drill it. It's repetition over and over and over again. I read it out loud. I'll look at it. Okay, I got it. I'll say it. Okay, I'll look at it again. I got it. I'll say it, and I'll do that literally for hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of actors I've met don't like to work that way, because there's nothing connected to it. I've met many actors who feel like, "Oh, I've got to connect it to my intention. I've got to connect it to my overall strategy here, and be until I do the, what we call table work. Until I've done that, I can't possibly start to learn my lines. But I tell you, I don't subscribe to that at all.
Yeah.
If you hire me for a play that's going to start rehearsing in a month's time, I will most likely come to the first rehearsal off book.
What?
That's how I feel.
Oh.
And it gives me tremendous freedom.
Yeah.
Tremendous freedom, Brian. And I've done it both ways, but I absolutely, over the course of 20, 25 years now, I absolutely have to do it that way. And I've met many actors who agree with me. Don't get me wrong. It's more of a, it's probably like a 50-50 split. But as far as forgetting lines on stage, of course, the one that comes to mind is when I was in graduate school. I was in a production of a John Patrick Shanley play. He's the guy who wrote Moonstruck, and
Yeah.
a wonderful playwright. And he wrote a play called Italian American Reconciliation. And the part I was playing was originally played by John Turturro off Broadway. Anyway, the play starts with like a 5-page monologue. And, I was a replacement. Some guy got hurt. It wasn't an official school production. So it was sort of at the University of Illinois. It was what they called the Armory. And it was a student-led, student-produced thing. And a buddy of mine came to me and said, "Hey, we just lost our actor. Could you think you could do this part?" And I looked at him and went, "Wow, it's a lot." And he gave me like a week to learn it, right? He gave me a week to learn. So it's like when you cram for a test in school, right? You cram, you take the test, and then the next day you've forgotten everything, right? You didn't really learn anything, right? So I crammed for this play over the course of a week. I learned all the play. I learned all the lines. I got it down. I get through opening night. It's a success. I'm thrilled. The next night, I get about a minute into my opening monologue, and I go up. I'm completely blank. I got nothing. And you literally feel like you're about to die. Like somebody has a gun to your head and you're about to get shot.
And you can't go anywhere.
Feeling. It is the worst thing. So I did what I could do. I walked off stage and I asked someone backstage to tell me what my line was. And then I came back on stage. There was nothing else to be done. And that's an extreme example, but usually when you forget a line, either you make something up or somebody else on stage. See, that's the thing, it was a monologue, so nobody could save me. But I've had situations where I've forgotten the line and then my partner on stage, comes in with something and we figure it out. And that's very hard. I did a lot of Shakespeare as a younger actor, and you can't,
Shakespeare.
You cannot improvise Shakespeare.
No, Shakespeare. Oh, hence and avoid thy sight if thy ban is trunk. It's what I like Shakespeare, but it was so hard. It really was. We learned a lot about Stephen Burkoff, Metamorphosis, and all that lot. And I think the greatest production I was ever in was Cabaret. Absolutely love it. I played Clifford Bradshaw, and I had to do an American accent, which apparently I did really, really well. I mean, how are you on your accents? Can you do?
I can do a couple of them. What's that?
Can you do any other apart from American?
Yeah. Well, I'm a twin. I have a twin sister named Laura, and one of our running gags is I call her and pretend that I'm Liam Neeson.
Oh yes.
So now you're putting me on the spot. I don't know if I can do it, but give me a second. Laura, it's Liam. How are you? Listen, Laura, I'm not going to be able to see you today. I'm down at the pub. Sorry about that, but there's a lot going on, and we've got to figure it out. But Laura, if you want to get together later, you call me up and I'll see you, because you are one lovely lass, and I love you, Laura. I love you. I love you from here to the moon and back. So, Laura, I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Okay, ta-ta.
Bravo. That is a lot better than my. I could not attempt that. I mean, have you ever lied on your resume? Because I know that when you go for acting jobs, they will ask you stuff like, can you ride a horse, ride a motorbike? Have you ever put something down on a resume, then had to learn that skill because you've got the job?
Well, I've definitely lied about credits when I was younger. I mean, I didn't do that. But when I first came to New York, all I had was school plays for film and television on your resume. Yeah. So I made up the titles of these, independent films that never existed. I don't know that I ever really lied in terms of the special skills section. I mean, I can juggle. I have a valid driver's license. I don't have a lot of special skills, but I I never felt. I am good at stage combat. I'm a certified. We got certified in stage combat in college, and I've been able my whole career. I've loved doing my own stunts, and I love whenever I get to do any kind of fighting, either on stage or on screen. I always am game for that. I love that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you've performed on stage, New York, in LA, and even London.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which
London's the best.
I,
London's
I I was just about to say, which one did you enjoy the most? So how long was you in London for?
So I did 2 plays in London. I did a play in the summer of 2002. God, it's so long ago, isn't it? We did the premiere of a play called Take Me Out, which was a play by Richard Greenberg so it was a joint production. We premiered at the Dunmar in Covent Garden, and then brought it back to New York, played it at the Public downtown, and then it went to Broadway and it won the Tony Award.
That's
It was a
awesome.
phenomenal play. It was directed by Joe Mantello, who's one of the best theater directors ever, and it was a play about baseball. Do you know anything about that play? It's a play about American
No.
baseball, and it was really a bit ahead of its time. It was this fictional team that very closely represented the New York Yankees. We were called the New York Empires, but we had the pinstripe uniforms and all that. And our star player, a guy named Darren Lemming, came out of the closet during the
Right.
season. And I mean, actually, that's still, I don't think ever happened, but it certainly felt very, forward thinking at that time. And anyway, yeah, and it's about the reaction that he gets. And I played a guy named Toddy Kuvitz, who I called him a bit of an Archie Bunker character. He did not support Darren's coming out, and
Right.
but he was a bit of an idiot, and so he said some very funny things in his bigotry, that gave it that Archie Bunker sort of quality to it. But yeah, so that was the one summer, and then the following summer, I took a play to the Soho Rep on Neal Street, a play called Tape, that was written by a good friend of mine named Stephen Balber, who actually wrote the play for me and my buddy Josh Stamberg. And we had done it off Broadway. We did it at the Actors Theater of Louisville at this great new play festival called Humana. We did it again off Broadway at a better theater off Broadway with my wife's theater company, Naked Angels. And we took it to Los Angeles, where we played the Coast Playhouse, and then we took it to Soho the following summer.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
what is it about the UK that you like? I mean, is the audience different? Do you get a different reception?
yeah,
Uh, yeah.
yeah. I mean, well, look, it's not fair to generalize, but in general, I would say that the English culture is one in which theater is not considered some sort of extraordinary treat. It seems to me that the prices are reasonable enough that many people from all areas of the spectrum are able to afford and enjoy the theater.
Yeah.
And in New York, it's become so crazily expensive that certainly Broadway. I
Yeah.
mean, but even off Broadway. I mean, you go to an off Broadway, well, pre-COVID anyway. You go to an off Broadway theater, you're going to spend, $85 to see a play. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people consider that to be an extravagance, and
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I went to New York quite a few years ago. I mean, I've been to New York quite a few times, and I went to go and see Mamma Mia. I was forced to go, and those tickets were like $200
oh yeah,
a ticket. It was shocking, but yet in the UK, if you went to the West End, you're looking at about £50, so about $70.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so going on from your theatre, you go into film. So which one do you prefer? Do you prefer stage or TV and film?
It's a very clear choice. If from a purely acting standpoint, I much prefer the theater.
Right.
There's no substitute. It takes me back to that being in the gym on a Friday night. There's
Yeah.
no substitute for that crowd reaction, for that interaction and give and take between the live audience and the stage. It's a miracle every time it happens. I mean, and it happens every night. I mean, in various ways. It's just a real pleasure. It's a joy, and I would never, if I could make a living and support my family doing only plays, I would absolutely do it. But which is not to say film isn't fun. I mean, I'm looking at behind you. You have a picture of 13 hours.
Yeah.
Making 13 hours was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
And this is a great segue because, out of all the true, the films based on true events, 13 hours for me knocked my socks off, as they say in the UK, because from start to finish, it's just literally on the edge of your seat, and the fact that it's based on true stories and true events. And after speaking with Mark Geist that play, who is Oz. It's shocking. It really is that it happened. So, how did the part come about for you for 13 hours?
Well, it was a straight up audition. I had no connection to Michael Bay. The casting director Denise Chamian was familiar with my work, and she was a big fan, and I love her for that. She's a great lady.
That's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, but I got sent the script from my agent, and look, Brian, as an actor, we make these, especially now, we make these tapes, right? We make audition tapes all the time, and the numbers are not in our favor. I mean, I've never actually done the numbers, but I would guess that if I'm batting 1 for 20, I'm doing pretty well. I mean, it's the vast majority, you make an audition tape, it goes off to the producers or directors, and you never hear about it again.
Yeah.
So that's how this felt. I said, oh, this is cool. They sent a link to the interview that those guys had done with Brett Baer. I don't know if you ever saw that. It's a roundtable interview. Yeah.
No.
You should check it out. If you really love the movie, you should check out that interview. It's Mark and it's, Tonto and Tig are around a table and they're just talking about that night. This is before the movie was made, obviously. So I made the tape and I forgot about it. 3 weeks later, out of the blue, I get a call saying, Michael Bay loves your audition. You are in first position. You have been pinned, as they say. You are
Wow.
You are the leading candidate for this role. And I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, I rarely, at that time, I hated making tapes. Now with COVID, you can't do anything but make a tape if you're interested. Yeah, they have to offer it to you or you make a tape. Nobody's taking meetings in person. I guess you could do a Zoom thing maybe. I haven't done too many of those, but you either make the tape or you don't. But back then I would hold out. I'd be like, no, I want to wait for the director to come to town. I'll meet him in person. And sometimes that worked. And sometimes, he never came or she never came and that never happened. Anyway, I wasn't expecting anything. And all of a sudden out of nowhere, I get this call and it happened. And I quickly dove in. I got on the phone with John Tiegen, who I was playing. He was amazing, amazing guy and also very generous, sharing details. And then they came to the set in Malta. The three of those guys did. The other two guys, Krasinski's character and Dave Denman's character, remained anonymous.
Yeah.
So I believe Dave Denman's character is now not anonymous. I think Boone is now making public statements about it, and it has been for a while.
Yeah.
The only one who's, John Krasinski's character is still, I mean, we know who he is, but he's not in the public. Really.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But the guys that were willing to, be known to the world, they came to Malta for a week or so and were on set with us. And that just made it all the more amazing because you're literally reenacting what they went through. And you can, in between takes, run over to Video Village and say, hey, did I get that right? What should I do differently? It was such a honor and thrill to be playing these guys. And so, man, I probably will never, I mean, look, I'd love to, but I'm also realistic. That might've been once in a lifetime, that kind of gig.
I mean, was you aware of the event before, when you got the project through for the audition, were you aware of Benghazi and what actually happened?
I had heard the name. I had heard a little bit about it, but no, not really. It didn't get a lot of play in the States until, sadly what happened was after the movie came out, we all right. So here's a funny story. We were in the trailers. I think it was the second to last day of shooting. It's like the middle of July, or maybe even a bit earlier. But we're watching the news from back home, and Donald Trump announces that he's going to run for president. And once that happened, the story of Benghazi became this political football in which, the people on the right wanted to use it against Hillary. The people on the left were trying to downplay it. And here we are making this movie. And look, I can 100% guarantee you, we were not talking politics at all.
Yeah.
Making of this movie. This is not, in our opinion, and we made the thing. We were not being political. All we wanted to do was to tell the honest story of what happened to these guys the night of September 11th, 2012 in Benghazi, Libya, as they tried to protect, tried to save the ambassador, Christopher Stevens, and his people at that temporary consulate, which was woefully, underprotected. And of course, it became what it became.
Yeah.
And then to go back to the CIA annex and protect those members of the CIA, several dozen members who were meant to be there clandestinely and quickly were known to the world. But the guys that are showcased in our movie, the 6 guys we play, they are heroes. They put their self in harm's way. They ran into the fire, literally.
Yeah.
And that's the story we wanted to tell, and it's a damn good story, and it's a good movie, and it's worth telling. But it wasn't meant to be part of this whole thing where, like, we condemn Hillary Clinton and we want this or that. It became that, and certain people absolutely ran with that. But I can tell you, as an actor, and I remember people asking me, was it difficult to choose to do that show? And I thought, no. But now I see why you're asking, because of what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
It became something else.
Yeah.
But that's not what it was meant to be.
The thing is, the story is literally about the brave men that went through that night and kept moving forwards and it resulted in saving lives, and there were losses, but it's about the heroic tale of the GRS.
And it's told through their own words.
Yeah.
They wrote the book, with Mitch, and look, I will tell you this. It drives me crazy that people think that a lot of it is fabricated. I mean, look, there may be, the only thing I will cop to is I think there were some explosions that Michael put in that probably never happened. And there's, and that because, Michael is Michael, and that's his brilliance, and he wants to blow things up, and he blows things up better than anybody has ever blown things up.
Yeah.
And he gets amazing photography out of it. And look, if is that a crime? Not in my book. And he
yeah. When I interviewed Mark Geist, he said exactly that. Everything in the movie was spot on. There were a few things that had to be changed for the purpose of the movie, but the overall feel and what happened was in that movie. And I think that's the thing of getting the truth out there, from the eyes of the people actually in there, not politicians, not people that are behind a big oak desk, sitting in a big leather chair, smoking that cigar. This is a story from the people that endured that night. What did John Teagan think of your portrayal of him?
Well, he's a very kind man, and regardless of what he really thought, he told me he loved it. I think he liked it a lot. I think he liked the movie. I mean, listen, I'll be honest. I think it was really hard for John to watch the movie, and
I can imagine.
And it took him a long time to. He did not. I'm not sure when. I think he has seen it, or at least parts of it, but he did not want to come to screenings. He did not want to. It was. Look, of course, they lost 2 of their, good friends, and it was obviously an extremely, all of them.
Yeah.
And so he was so grateful for the experience and for all of us, and we all became the actors and the real guys. We became brothers. I mean, it was a very tight knit group.
Yeah, and they're all getting together in a couple of days' time as well. Mark was saying, because they do every year because it's the 8th anniversary of that night. So they're all getting together. On the 4K edition that I've got, in the extras, it shows all the training that you went through. How
Yeah,
hard was that training?
it was hard. I mean, and it was it was, it was very humble inducing,
Yeah,
humility inducing. Um, we trained with SEALs. Michael Bay has a guy, Harry Humphreys, who has a group of guys, military guys that he helps the actors work with, and they put us through the paces. Man, it was we worked really hard, and we were constantly honing these skills that you know the worst thing that could happen, in my opinion, Brian, is that somebody in the military watches our movie and goes, "Oh, that's bullshit."
mm,
That it was the approval of the SEALs who trained us that meant the most to me, and I think to most of our actors. And for the most part, I think the military, the guys who've seen it that I've been able to talk to, and I've talked to. That's another great thing that came out of this. I've been invited to many military functions, and um, like I just last year I walked down Fifth Avenue during the Veterans Day parade with some guys. I mean, my respect for the military has grown immensely. It was
yeah.
always strong, but I have the utmost respect for the men and women who protect us around the world, and their opinion about that film means more to me than anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are in the military and who are veterans in the States and in the UK, and their thoughts on 13 hours is just astonishing. It really, really is, and it will always be one of my favorite movies. So thank you so much for
Well, thank
for
you.
giving us that great film. So what's next for you? Because with COVID and everything like that, what is next for you down the line? Because I noticed there's a few projects in post production and are being completed. So you've got Sweet Girl that is in post production. I don't know if we can talk about that or if you're like sort of not allowed.
Yeah, we could talk about it. I mean, I don't know when it's. The only thing I can't tell you is I don't know exactly when it's coming out.
Right.
It's a Netflix film starring Jason Momoa, um, who is an amazing guy. I loved working with Jason. Really, so warm. I mean, such an immense personality. He just fills a room with positivity. There are guys like that that I've had the good fortune of working with from time. Will Smith is another guy like that.
Yeah.
They're just positive people, and you want to be around them, and everybody wants to be around them. So anyway, Sweet Girl, I think is coming out probably 2021, but it's done. I mean, we got very lucky on that one. It finished shooting in the middle of February, so it was
Right. So
literally just before COVID changed the world. We shot it in Pittsburgh and had a great time. Um, the only thing I can tell you that's concrete, I think, is I did a series last year called Godfather of Harlem, which is on something called Epics here in the States. I don't know if that's in the UK, but
it's not yet. No.
okay. But maybe you have Hulu, right? You could watch. I
No,
think you could
we
probably
haven't
get it.
got Hulu. We haven't got Hulu. So half my listeners and viewers are US based. So we always have this joke because you've got Hulu, you've got HBO Max.
Yeah,
In the UK, we've hardly got anything. It's shocking. We've got Amazon Prime.
yeah,
So obviously the Purge, which amazing series. We've got Netflix, of course.
yeah.
But no, I mean it's
Huh,
sometimes these programs
that's
do
weird.
come over, but a bit later on.
I don't understand why. I mean, what is possibly the reason for not wanting to make more money? I mean,
I
all they
know.
have to do is say, "Hey guys, you want to subscribe to this?" And I'll take
Yeah,
your credit card. Oh my God.
yeah. I mean,
All right. So,
yeah. The
yeah.
thing is with the Zack Snyder, Justice League cut, it's only exclusive to HBO Max. But surely the world wants to see it, so they're going to make money. So bring it over here. So yeah. So you've got that series that is it with Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker plays
Yeah.
Bumpy Johnson, who's a real person, a gangster in Harlem in the 1960s. And so that makes it really interesting from a historical standpoint, because you have this guy who's, a criminal, but he's bumping heads, or rubbing elbows, I should say. Bumping Johnson, rubbing elbows with Malcolm X and Adam Clayton Powell and all these really significant historical figures of Harlem in the 60s. And then the other, so he's trying to gain control from the standpoint of the mob, and is bumping heads and shooting guns at and receiving from a guy named Vinny the Chin Gigante, who's played by Vincent D'Onofrio. And I played D'Onofrio's brother, who in real life was a priest. So I'm playing a Catholic priest on this show.
Right.
Which is great. I love it. And great group, and they're all amazing. Forrest is another guy you just want to be around. Really wonderful guy. And anyway, it's going to start, I've been told, production again in New York in October. So we'll see.
That's awesome. Do you know what this COVID at the moment is taking its toll on us? I mean, in the UK today, we've just had an announcement that we can't, be in groups of 6 or more. I mean, how is everything where you are? Because you've got 2 young kids. I mean, how is everything with them? Because my girls are 7 and 2, so it's quite hard on them, mentally. I mean, how are you getting on with those?
Our kids are a little older. Our daughter is 17 and our son is 14. So it's also very hard for different reasons. I think it's completely wiped out, their social plans, which as a teenager is a big deal. It's a pain. I'm talking to you from a cabin upstate, about 2.5 hours northwest of the city, near the Delaware River. And we're lucky enough to have this. And it's not winterized, so we're only here usually from May through October. So we don't have much time left. We're going to have to shut it down because the pipes will freeze. But it's been a great escape to get out of the city this way. The city, New York, is slowly coming back, but it's still. I mean, I would say the biggest difference is there's no theater and there's no restaurants. Yeah. Well, you can eat outside at the restaurant, but there's no in dining, and that, you never realize how important that is to a city until you can't do it. I mean, look, man, this whole thing, as you know, it's a nightmare, and we've adjusted, and luckily we bought into wearing masks, so New York has kept the numbers way down. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know, once things go back to shooting, I haven't heard the details of the protocol. Are they going to test the actor every day? Are they going to? I mean, I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, funny you said that. There is a production based on Sleepless in Seattle that is in the West End at the moment, and that's the first show to actually fully go back on stage. And what they're doing is they're testing all cast and crew every single day for coronavirus.
But how are they going to fill a house? How are you going to have people sitting next to each other?
Yeah, well, it's like 1 every 3 seats. So a 1,600 seat auditorium, now they can only have 400.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know how viable that is.
Listen, I'm happy to hear they're going to. Yeah, I'm happy to hear they're going to try that. But as you say, I've always been told that the margins on Broadway or the West End are so tight that if you don't have a full house, you can't really survive. Yeah. So are they going to jack up the price? Is everybody going to pay 4 times now instead of 50 quid? You're going to pay 200. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, welcome to Broadway.
Yeah.
And quickly before I end this wonderful interview, I want to give a shout out to your wife because she has a wonderful podcast as well. Little known facts, and what a beautiful voice she's got. I could listen to her voice all day.
Well,
it's so relaxing.
You're gonna make her day. She loves to hear that. Thank you for saying that.
It is really relaxing. Does she ever get in a bad mood? Because she just sounds like literally, even if she got into a bad mood, it won't be that bad.
Well, I confess I am able to put her in a bad mood from time to time, but it's not very often.
We are men.
very positive things. Yeah, but yeah, thank you. Yeah, little known facts with Alana Levine, right?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's she's been doing it for 4 years, and like you, she's just really good at getting people to open up. It feels like old friends chatting, and yeah, it's fun. Yeah, thank you for saying that.
No. It's a pleasure. So I'm going to let you get back to whatever you're doing today. But thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Dominic.
My pleasure. Good to talk to you.